10, 11, and 12, we're using trigonometry to find angles of elevation or depression. So again, we're doing the exact same thing we did on a previous problem, but now we're applying it to a real-life application problem. And so we have a 15-foot ladder leaning against the side of the house. The top of the ladder is 13 feet off the ground. We want to find the angle of elevation, and so again, they've got that all labeled for you. We just have to use our rules here in order to figure out what x is. So we have the opposite side and the hypotenuse. We're going to use the sine. The sine of x is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, so 13/15. So if we want to solve it for x, we do the inverse of the sine, or the arc sine, of 13/15. Inverse sine of 13 over 15 gives me 60.073. I have to round that to the nearest tenth again, and so I'm going to say 60.1 degrees when I round that off to the nearest tenth. Number 11 says a ramp 44 feet long rises to a platform. So it's on the ground, they're putting it up to a platform for a ramp. The bottom of the platform is 19 feet from the foot of the ramp. Find x, the angle of elevation of the ramp. So how high is that tilted up? Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a degree. So again, I'm finding the measure of this angle. I know the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, so on this one we're going to use the cosine. The cosine of x should be equal to the adjacent 19 over the hypotenuse, which is 44. So again, since we want to find x, we have to do the inverse of the cosine to undo that, or the arc cosine of 19 over 44. So shift cosine 19/44, and x is going to be 64.416, which rounds off to 64.4 degrees for our answer for what is the angle of our elevation. So number 12 says find x, the angle of depression. So I'm starting on the top and going down. From the top of the lighthouse, that is 172 feet above water level. So here's the top, I went up 172 feet. Above the water level to the water line of a ship, that is 885 feet offshore. So my ship's way out here, it's 885 feet over to get to where the ship is. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a degree again. So if I'm looking at this one, I have the opposite side and the adjacent side, so I would have to use tangent of x. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I have 172 over 885. Again, if I want to find the angle measure, I'm going to use the arc tangent or inverse tangent. So x is equal to the inverse tangent of 172 over 885. And then I'm going to use my calculator to solve that. And so I get 10.998. I round it to the nearest tenth. 9 rounds up to 10, which I have to carry, so that's going to round off to 11.0. Since it tells me to round to the nearest tenth, I do want to show that tenth spot is a 0, so 11.0 degrees is how they're going to want to see that one.